Listen to me. Trust the God, not just when things are good, not just when you're winning, not just when the money's flowing, the doors are opening and the people are clapping. No, I'm talking about trusting him when your back is against the wall. I'm talking about trusting him when the phone ain't ringing, when the diagnosis is bad, when they walk away from you, when your own mind is telling you it's over. That's when real faith shows up. Some of y'all think faith is about comfort. Nah, faith is about endurance. Faith is about obedience. Faith is about saying, even when I can't trace his hand, I will still trust his heart. You want the crown, but you don't want the cross. You want the promise, but you don't want the process. And God is saying, if you trust me, I will take you places no man can take you. I will open doors no man can shut. I will restore everything the enemy stole. But you got to stop trusting your feelings more than your Father. You got to stop trusting the pain more than the promise. You got to stop trusting the problem more than the provider. See, you trusting in your job and you lost it. You trusting in people and they left. But God's never failed. Not once, not ever. He said, I will never leave you nor forsake you. And he meant that. You looking for proof? Look in the mirror. You're still here. After everything you've been through, you didn't fold. You fall. You didn't die in it. You survived it. Not because of your strength, but because of his grace. So today I need you to get back to trusting the God. Trust him in the valley. Trust him in the valley. Trust him in the storm. Trust him when it hurts. Trust him when it makes no sense. Because the same God who brought you out before, he's the same God who will do it again. You just got to hold on and walk by faith, not by sight. He's writing your story. Don't close the book when it's just the middle. The breakthrough is on the next page. So stop doubting and trust the God. You keep trusting your feelings, and that's the problem. That's why you're stuck. That's why you keep quitting on yourself. That's why you keep going in circles. Listen to me. Your emotions are real, but they are not always true. I'm not saying don't feel. I'm not saying deny your pain. But I'm saying stop letting your emotions sit in the driver's seat while your destiny is in the trunk. Your feelings were never meant to lead you. They're supposed to inform you, not define you. Some of y'all wake up and if it feels hard, you stop. If it feels scary, you run. If it feels uncomfortable, you call it a sign to quit. Let me tell you something. Faith don't feel good all the time. Trusting God doesn't mean it'll feel right. It means you believe it's right, even when everything in you is screaming otherwise, because your flesh is always going to fight your future. Your comfort zone is always going to choke your calling. And you will never step into what God has for you if you keep bowing down to what your emotions are telling you. You want to be chosen. You want to be anointed. You want favor. You want elevation. But do you trust the God more than your fear, more than your doubt, more than your depression, more than your anxiety? See, I've been there. I've been in that dark place. I've had those days where I didn't feel like preaching, didn't feel like getting up, didn't feel like fighting. But I didn't let how I felt determine who I was. I had to remind myself, Eric, you're not your feelings. You're not your failure. You're not your fatigue. You're God's son. And he didn't bring you this far to leave you now. Some of you are listening to lies from your own mind. Lies that say you're not enough. Lies that say you'll never make it. Lies that say God's forgotten about you. But the devil is a liar. You got to speak back. You got to answer those lies with truth. You got to tell your fear, I'm not moved by what I feel. I'm moved by what God said. You got to tell your weakness, his strength is made perfect right here in this moment. You got to look your emotions in the face and say, you don't control me. The Spirit of God does. That's why you got to stay in your word. Because if you don't know what God said, you'll fall for what your emotions say. You'll think you're broken when you're actually being built. You'll think it's the end when it's just the beginning. You'll think the silence means God is gone when it really means he's working in the background. God's word is your anchor, especially when the storm is raging. It's the only thing that doesn't move. Emotions come and go. People come and go. Seasons come and go. But his word, it endures forever. I know you feel overwhelmed. I know you feel forgotten sometimes. But feelings lie. They lie to keep you stuck. They lie to keep you scared. They lie to keep you small. Your emotions will have you quitting a job God sent you, walking away from a relationship God blessed, abandoning a purpose God anointed, all because it got hard. Let me ask you something. When did hard become a sign to stop? If anything, hard is confirmation you're on the right path. If it wasn't hard, it wouldn't require trust. If it wasn't hard, it wouldn't grow you. If it wasn't hard, it wouldn't be faith. You waiting to feel ready, but God's saying, a move anyway. You waiting to feel peace, but he's saying, I am your peace. You waiting to feel strong, but he's saying, in your weakness, I am made strong. You're looking for a feeling when he already gave you a foundation, his word. You want goosebumps, but God's trying to give you growth. You want vibes, but God's giving you vision. You want comfort, but he's building character. Stop chasing a moment and start standing on the truth. You got dreams, you got goals, you got a calling on your life. Then you're gonna have to make a decision, feelings or faith, because you can't follow both. You can't walk by faith and live in your feelings. You can't talk about trusting God and keep living like he won't come through. Either you believe he's able or you don't. Either you trust his word or you trust your wounds. But you can't do both. Do both. You gotta pick. And let me tell you, when you trust God over your emotions, you win every time. It might not look like it at first, but you'll always come out on top. Always. I've seen it in my own life. I've had seasons where I didn't feel blessed. I didn't feel chosen. I didn't feel anointed. But I didn't base my faith on my feelings. I based it on what God said about me. And he said I was more than a conqueror. He said I was the head, not the tail. He said I was chosen, called, set apart. So I walked in that. Even when I didn't feel it, I spoke it. Even when my emotions said otherwise, I stood on his word, even when the world was shaking underneath me. And you can too, but it starts with this. Stop trusting your feelings more than your father. Your feelings didn't form you in your mother's womb. Your feelings didn't write your destiny. Your feelings didn't die on a cross for you, but God did. God formed you. God purposed you. God sacrificed for you. God carried you through nights you cried yourself to sleep. God kept you from losing your mind. God opened doors no man could shut. God restored what they said couldn't be restored. So why are you letting your emotions have more authority than the God who made you? It's time to flip the script. You've been reacting to life based on how you feel. Now it's time to respond based on what God said. You've been letting fear keep you small. Now it's time to let faith make you bold. You've been living like a victim. Now it's time to move like a victor. But that shift doesn't happen by accident. It happens when you make a decision to trust, not feel. Trust, not overthink. Trust, not panic. Trust. And trust doesn't mean it makes sense. Trust means you follow even when you don't understand. Trust means you walk even when you can't see the next step. Trust means you praise even when you feel pain. Trust means you get up again and again because you believe his word over everything else. This ain't easy. I'm not gonna lie to you. It takes discipline. It takes prayer. It takes prayer. It takes a daily choice to silence the lies, ignore the noise, and lean into what God said. But I promise you this. If you stop letting your feelings run your life and start walking by his truth, you won't just survive, you'll thrive. You won't just make it, you'll rise. And every tear, every setback, every sleepless night will make sense when you see what God was building in you the whole time. You think just because it hasn't happened yet, it's not gonna happen. You think because it's taking longer than you expected, God changed his mind. You think because the door didn't open when you knocked, it means the door was never yours. Well, let me tell you something. Delay does not mean denied. Just because it didn't come when you want, it doesn't mean it ain't coming. You hear what I'm saying? Some of the greatest blessings in your life are gonna come after the delay. But if you give up during the waiting season, you'll never taste the breakthrough on the other side. You looking at other people, how they're winning, how they're rising, how they're being celebrated. And you're asking God, oh, what about me? You're asking, why not now? You're praying, when is it my turn? And God is answering you, but not the way you expected. He's saying, wait, be still. Stay faithful, keep building, keep showing up. Because a delay is not rejection, it's preparation. You're asking for something big, and God's making sure you're ready when it shows up. Because if he gives it to you too soon, you'll mess it up. If he hands it to you when you're not ready, you'll lose it. God isn't just concerned with blessing you. He's concerned with keeping you. See, some of y'all think you're waiting on God, But in reality, God is waiting on you, waiting on your character to catch up to your calling, waiting on your obedience to align with your assignment, waiting on your trust to outweigh your tantrums. You're crying over the delay, and God's saying, I'm protecting you. You're mad it didn't happen in 2023. You're frustrated. It hasn't come in 2024. But what if I told you he was saving the best for 2025? What if I told you he's letting everybody else go ahead of you so that when you show up, you don't blend in? You stand out? I know it hurts. I know waiting feels like punishment, but it's not. It's the gym. It's the workshop. It's the secret place where God's shaping you in silence. Nobody sees it, but he's molding your mind. He's healing your heart. He's stretching your spirit. He's training your faith. Because where he's taking you, shortcuts won't work. You've got to be solid. You've got to be rooted. You've got to be unshakable. That takes time. And God ain't in a rush. He's in control. You ever put something in the oven and pull it out too early? It might look done on the outside, but it's raw on the inside. And that's what happens when you try to rush destiny. That's what happens when you try to force what God said instead of trusting the timing. You come out half-baked, unstable, unprepared. And then you blame God for something he never told you to do in the first place. Don't do that. Don't run ahead of him just because you're tired of waiting. Don't trade your legacy for temporary applause. Don't settle just because you're scared the real thing is taking too long. Abraham was promised a son, but the delay made him impatient. So he tried to make it happen in his own way with Hagar. And that one decision brought drama into generations. Why? Because the promise was still coming. He just didn't trust the process. And some of you are in danger of doing the same thing. You're about to settle for good enough when God promised you more than enough. You're about to go back to what's familiar because what's destined is taking too long. Don't do it. Don't forfeit your future over frustration. You got to trust that God's timeline is better than yours. I know Instagram says you should be rich by 25. I know the world makes you feel behind. I know the pressure is real. But let me tell you something. Purpose ain't on a deadline. Destiny don't expire. The anointing on your life doesn't come with a due date. God is not late. He's intentional. So if it hasn't happened yet, maybe he's still building it. Or maybe, just maybe, still building you. Sometimes the delay is to develop your voice. Sometimes it's to detox your spirit from things you didn't even know were hurting you. Sometimes he's removing the wrong people from your circle so they don't sabotage what he's about to bless. Sometimes he's closing doors, not because he's cruel, but because if you walk through them too early, they'll crush you. You don't know what he sees. You don't know what traps he's avoiding for you. You don't know what's on the other side of the delay, but you've got to believe it's good. David was anointed king as a teenager, but he didn't step into the palace until years later. Why? Because God had to prepare him. He had to fight lions and bears in the fields. He had to battle Goliath in public. He had to survive Saul's attacks in the wilderness. Because God wasn't just building a king. He was building a warrior. He was building a leader. He was building a man after his own heart. And that kind of man takes time. That kind of man is shaped in the delay. And you're being shaped too. I know you don't like it. I know you wish it was faster, but the delay is doing something in you. It's making you wiser. It's teaching you patience. It's building your endurance. It's giving you depth. You want to lead, then learn how to follow. You want to be trusted with much, then be faithful with little. You want favor, then learn to worship in the famine. Anybody can praise when it's raining blessings, but what do you do when it's dry? What do you do when nothing's moving? That's where God checks your heart. That's where he separates the real from the fake. Don't let the delay make you doubt. Don't let the silence make you anxious. Don't let the time make you turn around. Hold on. You're closer than you think. And the enemy knows it. That's why he's turning up the heat. That's why the attacks are getting more personal. That's why the voices in your head are louder than ever. Because breakthrough is near. Because the promise is right around the corner. Because what God said is still on schedule, even if your clock don't say so. You were never denied. You were never disqualified. You were never forgotten. That's a lie from the pit of hell. You are still chosen. You are still called. You are still in the plan. You are still his. And he is still working. even when you don't see it, even when you don't feel it, even when all you got is a whisper of hope left. That whisper is enough. That mustard seed is enough. That prayer through tears is enough, because faith isn't about how loud you shout. It's about how long you stand. It's about waking up every day and saying, God, I trust you, even in the delay. So don't quit. Don't rush. Don't fold. Stay right where he planted you. Keep sowing. Keep grinding. Keep believing. Because what's coming will be worth every second you had to wait. Every no will make sense. Every tear will be answered. Every season of silence will break into a sound of praise. But you've got to make it through the delay first. You've got to hold on until the clouds clear. You've got to stand still until the waters part. And when they do, you'll see that it was never a denial. It was divine timing. You want the overflow, but you don't want the obedience. You keep asking God to bless you, to elevate you, to expand you. But you won't do the last thing he told you to do. You're praying for more, but you're ignoring the instructions that lead to it. Let me tell you something. There's no overflow without obedience. None. You can hustle. You can grind. You can chase. But the blessing that's from God, that overflow, that abundance, that supernatural favor, it only comes through obedience. God doesn't reward talent. He doesn't reward potential. He doesn't reward big dreams and long prayers if there's no obedience behind. He rewards obedience, period. When he says move and you move, that's where the overflow comes. When he says give and you give, that's where the breakthrough happens. When he says wait and you wait, even when it hurts, even when it doesn't make sense, that's where the oil flows. Obedience ain't about comfort, it's about trust. It's about saying, oh God, I don't get it, but I'll still do it. I don't feel ready, but I'll still go. I don't see the full picture, but I trust the one who painted it. You're trying to negotiate with God. You're trying to bargain, and God is saying, oh no, you do it now. You do it when it's scary. You do it when it's uncertain. You do it when nobody understands. Why? Because your obedience is a seed, and you don't see the harvest the moment you plant it. You've got to water it with faith. You've got to be patient. You've got to keep showing up, even when it looks like nothing's happening. But hear me, something is happening. Heaven responds to obedience. The atmosphere shifts when you obey. Some of y'all are blocked, not because you're cursed, but because you're disobedient. You're tithing, but you won't forgive. You're serving, but you're still holding bitterness. You're showing up to church, but you're still living in a relationship you know God told you to walk away from. And you're wondering why the overflow hasn't come yet. Let me help you. God doesn't bless disobedience. He might cover you. He might keep you. He might extend grace because he's a good father. But the overflow, that's reserved for those who obey. You can't live any kind of way and expect God to bless it. You can't half follow him and expect full blessings. You've got to be all in. You got to say, God, I trust you more than my desires. I trust you more than my logic. I trust you more than my logic. I trust you more than people's opinions. It's not about rules. It's about relationship. It's about reverence. It's about surrender. I'm talking about obedience that comes from intimacy. That comes from walking with God so closely that when he whispers, you move. When he checks your spirit, you adjust. When he says to go apologize, you do it. When he says to give that money, you don't hesitate. When he says to leave that comfort zone, you start packing. Not because it's easy, not because it's clear, but because you trust his voice more than your own. I've been there. I've had to obey when it was uncomfortable. I've had to say yes, so when everything in me wanted to say no. I've had to walk away from opportunities that look good on paper because God said, and not that one. I had to shut my mouth when I wanted to clap back. I've had to give money I didn't feel like I had. I've had to keep preaching when I was exhausted, when I was grieving, when I was under attack. And let me tell you, every single time I obeyed, even in tears, even in confusion, God came through. He opened doors I didn't knock on. He made ways I didn't plan for. He sent people, favor, strength, peace, all because I obeyed. You're sitting on instructions right now. You know what God told you to do, but you've been ignoring it, delaying it, overthinking it. You're asking for a new word when you haven't responded to the last one. God doesn't play like that. He's not going to give you step 2 until you move on step 1. You want elevation, but you haven't mastered submission. You want leadership, but you won't even listen. You want the reward without the requirement. And God is saying, that's not how it works in my kingdom. Do you understand what happens when you obey? Chains break. Generational curses get cut off. Doors open that were sealed shut. You unlock blessings not just for yourself, but for your children and your children's children. Your obedience becomes a legacy. It becomes a statement that says, as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. You stop the cycle. You change the narrative. But it all starts with obedience. I know it's hard. I know obedience costs. I know obedience costs. It'll cost you your pride. It'll cost you your comfort. It might cost you some relationships. It might cost you your plan. But obedience will never cost you your purpose. In fact, it's the only path to it. The enemy wants you to believe that doing it God's way will keep you stuck. But what really keeps you stuck is doing it your way. Your way got you exhausted. Your way got you frustrated. Your way got you confused. It's time to let go of your way and say, nevertheless, not my will, but yours be done. When Jesus was in the garden, sweating blood, facing the cross, even he didn't want to go through with it. He said, dear Father, if it be possible, take this cup from me. But then what did he say next? Yet not my will, but yours be done. That's obedience. That's surrender. That's trust. And because of his obedience, salvation flowed to the entire world. His yes brought the ultimate overflow. So don't tell me your obedience doesn't matter. Don't tell me your yes is small. Your obedience can shake nations. Your yes can save a family. Your sacrifice can open the floodgates for somebody else. You keep thinking it's just about you. But what if the breakthrough your community needs is locked in your obedience? What if the shift in your bloodline depends on whether or not you obey the instruction God gave you last month? What if your children's healing, your spouse's salvation, your neighborhood's revival? What if it's all connected to your ES? That's why the enemy's fighting you so hard. That's why the warfare is intense. That's why you keep getting distracted, discouraged, disillusioned. Because if you ever decided to really obey, the kingdom of darkness would take a hit. So here's the truth. You don't need a new word. You don't need another confirmation. You don't need another sign. You need to obey what he already told you. That business idea, he gave it to you. That person, you need to forgive. You already know who it is. That move you've been delaying, he's been waiting on you. And I'm telling you right now, if you obey, the overflow will come. You keep stressing because you don't have the answers. You keep losing sleep because you don't know the next step. You keep hesitating because the full plan ain't laid out in front of you. But let me break this down for you. You don't need all the answers. You don't need all the answers. You don't need the full blueprint. You don't need the 10-year forecast. All you need is to know the author, the one who wrote your story, the one who already sees the end from the beginning, the one who doesn't guess, doesn't assume, doesn't gamble. He knows what you need. He knows where you're going. He knows how to get you there. And if you trust the author, you can walk by faith and not by sight. See, too many of y'all are trying to be in control of something that was never yours to control. You're trying to manage God's job. You're trying to play director when you're supposed to be an actor in the scene he wrote. And the truth is, you're frustrated because you're fighting the script. You're mad because he won't show you the whole book. But why would he give you the full story if you don't trust him with the current chapter? Why would he drop the final scene when you're still trying to rewrite what he already said was done? You think clarity is going to give you peace. Give you peace. You think if God just showed you everything, then you finally move, then you finally obey. But the truth is, it's not a clarity problem. It's a trust problem. Because real faith don't need all the steps. Real faith says, God, I don't know where this is going, but I trust you. I don't know how this ends, but I trust the one who's in charge of the end. That's where peace lives, not in knowing every detail, but in knowing him. You ever read a book and skip to the end? Come on, be real. You wanted to see how it ended before you went through all the chapters. But what did that do? It robbed you of the tension. It robbed you of the journey. It robbed you of the depth of the plot. And that's what some of y'all trying to do with life. You're skipping ahead. You're trying to jump to the outcome. But God is saying, if you skip this part, you'll miss the lesson. If you rush this scene, you won't grow. You want destiny, but you're allergic to development. You want the promise, but you're offended by the process. But let me tell you something. The process is sacred. The mystery is holy. The in-between is divine, because that's where you meet God in the raw. That's where you learn his voice. That's where you find his strength. That's where you build a relationship, not just a religion. When you don't have the answers and you got nothing but his presence, that's when it becomes real. That's when you know what it means to walk with him. Not just work for him, to love him, not just serve him, to seek his face, not just his hand. And the reason some of y'all are stuck is because you're obsessed with knowing. You got analysis paralysis. You're addicted to certainty. You want God to be predictable, mathematical, logical, but he's not. He's sovereign. He's not a system. He's not a formula. He's not an algorithm you can hack, home, or procure. He's the author, creator, the Alpha and Omega, the one who was and is to come. And you're not supposed to understand him. You're supposed to trust him. Think about Abraham. God said, go to a land I will show you. Didn't even tell him where. Didn't send him the coordinates. Didn't give him a GPS. Just said, go, and Abraham obeyed. Why? Because he didn't need all the answers. He just needed to know the one who gave the instruction. And because of that trust, Abraham became the father of nations. Not because he had all the data, but because he had deep faith. Some of you are waiting for peace to come through a plan. But peace don't come from plans. It comes from presence. And God is saying, if you knew me like you say you do, you wouldn't panic just because you don't have a roadmap. You wouldn't fold every time life gets foggy. You wouldn't retreat every time things don't make sense. You say, God, I can't see, but I know you can. And that's enough for me. You're asking for sign. You're asking for confirmation. You're scrolling, searching, reading, fasting. But what if God is silent because you already know what to do? What if he's not speaking because he's waiting on your move? You want him to explain every detail, but that's not faith. That's fear in disguise. Faith is stepping even when you're scared. Faith is obeying when you've got no evidence. Faith is trusting the author when the page you're on. It doesn't make any sense. Do you know how many times I had to move without answers? How many times I had to speak without a script? How many times I had to walk through doors not knowing what was on the other side, but I did it anyway. Not because I'm special, not because I'm fearless, but because I trust my God. I trust the pen in his hand. I trust the author of my life more than I trust my limited understanding. And every time I did, he showed up, he made a way. He worked it out. Maybe not how I thought, maybe not when I wanted, but better, always better. His way is always better. His plan is always wiser. His design is always perfect. Even when I didn't understand it, even when I doubted it, even when I questioned it, his story for me was greater than anything I could have written for myself. And that's what I want you to get. You don't have to write the story. You just have to live it. You just have to trust the one holding the pen. The dream in your heart. He put it there. That vision in your spirit, he's already made provision for it. That calling that scares you, he already paved the way. You just have to walk. You just have to obey. You just have to believe that the author doesn't make mistakes. Stop living like you're lost. You're not lost. You're led. You're not abandoned. You're being aligned. You're not behind. You're being built. And the longer you try to make sense of it all before you move, the more you delay what God is trying to do in your life. It's okay not to know. It's okay not to have the whole picture. It's okay to be in the dark, as long as you know the light. So put down the pressure. Let go of the need to understand everything. You don't have to see the whole staircase. Just take the next step. You don't need to know every chapter. Just turn the page. Because the author is faithful. He's proven. He's undefeated. And when you trust him, when you lean not on your own understanding, when you surrender the pen and stop editing the script, that's when you walk in real freedom. That's when peace shows up. That's when overflow finds you. Not because you had all the answers, but because you knew the author was enough. Everybody wants faith until it costs them comfort. Everybody loves the idea of trusting God until trusting God requires sacrifice. You say you got faith, but the moment it gets uncomfortable, you fold. The moment it hurts, you run. The moment it stretches you, you start questioning if it's really God. Let me be real with you. Faith is not about comfort. Faith is about commitment. Faith is about saying yes, even when it hurts. Faith is showing up even when nothing makes sense. On memo, so I've been frustrated and confused because you trust the one who called you. You keep thinking faith is gonna feel good. You keep waiting for faith to be convenient, but that's not how it works. Faith will interrupt your plans. It will shake up your routine. It will pull you out of the familiar. Faith will demand everything from you, your comfort, your pride, your plan, your logic. Because faith don't live in the safe zone. Faith lives in the fire. Faith lives in the fight. Faith lives in the sacrifice. You say you want to walk by faith, but are you willing to walk without a safety net? Are you willing to move without a backup plan? Are you willing to obey without seeing the outcome? That's the level of trust God is looking for. Not that surface level, feel good Sunday morning faith. Talking about raw, radical, relentless faith that says, God, I don't need to feel it to follow it. I don't need to be comfortable to stay committed. Some of y'all treat God like a consultant. You want his advice, not his authority. You want suggestions, not surrender. You pray, a God got me. But what you really mean is a God agree with me. And the second he tells you something that challenges your comfort, you start negotiating, you start stalling, you start doubting. But let me ask you this, what if the breakthrough you've been begging for is on the other side of discomfort? What if the miracle is buried beneath the thing you're afraid to do? What if your blessing is waiting in the storm you're trying to avoid? Let me tell you something. Comfort is the enemy of calling. Every time God calls someone in scripture, it was uncomfortable. When Moses was called, it was uncomfortable. When Noah was told to build the ark, it was uncomfortable. When David had to face Goliath, it was uncomfortable. When Mary had to carry the Savior of the world, it was uncomfortable. When Jesus went to the cross, it was uncomfortable. So why do you think your calling is supposed to feel like a spa day? You want resurrection, but you don't want crucifixion. You want the crown, but not the cross. You want the reward, but not the responsibility. But that's not how kingdom living works. That's not how faith works. Faith will strip you. It will test you. It will push you to the edge of yourself. But that's where God meets you, at the end of your comfort zone. That's where he pours out the oil. That's where he shows you what you're really made of. That's where he turns you from ordinary into anointed. You keep praying for elevation, but elevation don't come without tension. You can't rise without resistance. God's not going to promote you just because you're gifted. He promotes those who are committed. Can you stay faithful when it's hard? Can you keep building when no one's watching? Can you keep walking when you feel alone? That's commitment. That's faith. I remember seasons where I had nothing but a promise. No evidence, no signs, no support, just a word from God. And I had to decide, am I going to let comfort be my God, or is God going to be my God? Am I going to quit because it's hard, or trust that hard don't mean impossible? See, when you're committed, you don't need a crowd. When you're committed, you don't need applause. When you're committed, you don't flinch when it hurts. You push through. You get up again. You show up again. You believe again. There were times I was broken, discouraged, exhausted, but I still showed up. Not because I felt strong, but because I was committed. Not because it made sense, but because God told me to. That's faith. When the fire is hot, but you don't run. When the water's deep, but you keep walking. When the odds are stacked, but you don't back down. That's the kind of faith God honors. That's the kind of faith that moves mountains. That's the kind of faith that brings heaven to earth. You think the devil is scared of your comfort. He's not. He's terrified of your commitment. That's why he keeps hitting you. That's why he keeps trying to distract you, discourage you, derail you. Because he knows if you ever stay committed long enough to see what God promised, it's over for him. If you ever get so locked in that no weapon formed against you can stop you, then you become a problem for the enemy. But if you keep quitting every time it gets uncomfortable, you'll never see what's on the other side. If you keep retreating every time life shakes you, you'll stay stuck in cycles. Because the devil don't need to destroy you if he can distract you with comfort. Some of y'all are too comfortable to be dangerous, too comfortable to be effective, too comfortable to walk in purpose. And God is calling you out of that. He's calling you deeper. He's calling you higher. But it's gonna cost you. Gonna cost you comfort. It's gonna cost you convenience. It's gonna cost you control. And the question is, are you willing to pay that price? Are you willing to sacrifice ease for purpose? Are you willing to say, oh God, I'm all in, even when it's hard. Because that's what separates people who dream from people who do. That's what separates those who talk from those who transform. Commitment. I've seen people with less talent go further than those with more talent. Why? Because they were committed. I've seen people who had every reason to quit, but they didn't. Why? Because they were committed. I've seen people who started from nothing, came from struggle, didn't have the education, didn't have the network, but they kept showing up. They kept trusting God. They kept putting in the work. They stayed faithful through the fire. And God elevated them, not because they were the smartest, but because they were the most committed. So don't you dare sit here and let comfort rob you of your calling. Don't you dare let feelings dictate your fate. Don't you dare settle for average when greatness is in your DNA. It's gonna be hard. It's gonna hurt, but it's worth it. Faith isn't supposed to be easy. It's supposed to be anchored. It's supposed to be fierce. It's supposed to be gritty. That's why the Bible says other just shall live by faith, not visited, not tried out loud. So today, make a decision, not a feeling, a decision. To stop chasing comfort and start chasing commitment. To stop bowing to fear and start standing in faith. To stop waiting for the perfect moment and move in the middle of your mess. Because God don't need your comfort, he needs your commitment. And when you give him that, watch what he does. Watch how he shows up. Watch how he shifts everything. Not because you had it all together, because you refuse to quit. Sometimes when the storm hits, the first thing you think is, where is God? As if his presence was supposed to stop the storm from ever showing up. As if his love meant you never faced fire. But I came to tell you, the storm doesn't mean God left. Sometimes the storm is a proof that he's in the boat with you. See, everybody wants a smooth journey. Everybody wants calm seas. But you don't get stronger in calm seas. You don't grow in comfort. You grow in the storm. You learn to trust in the turbulence. You think God abandoned you because life got rough? No. That's where God does his best work, in the chaos, in the confusion, in the middle of what you can't control. That's where God shows you who he is. Yeah. See, you think the storm is meant to destroy you. But what if the storm is designed to develop you? What if the storm is where God reveals the version of you that's been sleeping? That storm didn't come to you. It came to awaken something inside of you. It came to stir up the faith you said you had. It came to expose the weakness so you can grow into your strength. Some of y'all have been praying for peace and mistaking silence for absence. Just because God is silent doesn't mean he's not present. He's in the boat. You just forgot that he doesn't panic like you do. He's not pacing like you. He's not worried about the waves. He's not shocked by the wind because the storm doesn't shake him. You forgot that the same God who created the wind can command it to stop with one word. And just because he hasn't said it yet doesn't mean he's not working. God doesn't waste storms. If you're in it, there's a purpose for it. If you're feeling pressed, there's oil coming out of that pressure. If you're being crushed, that's where greatness is formed. But we're too quick to run, too quick to fold, too quick to throw in the towel when things don't go our way. And that's why we never develop the endurance necessary to carry the promise. You want the promise, but you don't want the process. You want the crown, but you don't want the waves. But the waves are what teach you how to walk on water. The waves are what show you what you're made of. You ever wonder why Jesus didn't stop the storm before the disciples freaked out? He could have, but he let it rise. He let the water splash. He let the thunder roll. Why? Because he wanted to test their trust. He wanted to see, will you believe in me when everything around you is breaking loose? Will you still trust my voice when the storm is louder than your faith? Some of you say you trust God, but the moment the storm hits, you start talking more about your fears than his promises. You talk more about the winds than the word. But faith isn't proven in the sunshine. It's proven in the storm. That's when you see who really believes. That's when you see who's built on rock and who's built on sand. That's when you see who's got surface faith and who's got unshakable faith. And the truth is, some of y'all wouldn't pray if it wasn't for the storm. You wouldn't see God if life was perfect. So he allows the shaking to bring you closer. He allows the breaking to bring out the blessing. He allows the storm to expose the parts of you that were never rooted in him to begin with. He's not punishing you. He's preparing you. He's not trying to break you. He's building your backbone. You gotta stop thinking that pain is punishment. Sometimes pain is preparation. You got to stop thinking that difficulty is demonic. You got to stop thinking that stuff, thinking that storms mean God is mad at God. Storms mean God is mad at you. Sometimes storms mean God is near you. That thunder you hear, that's heaven making noise to get your attention. That lightning that's flashing, that's God exposing what you tried to hide. That rain falling, that's the cleansing of everything you thought you needed but was only weighing you down. I'm not telling you storms are easy. I've been through some that nearly broke me. Nights I cried. Days I felt like quitting. Moments I questioned everything, but looking back, those storms made me. Those storms taught me to pray for real. They taught me to walk by faith, not by sight. They taught me to let go of control and surrender. They taught me that peace isn't the absence of the storm. It's the presence of God in the middle of it. You waiting for the storm to pass before you praise him? That's not how this works. Praise him in the storm. Worship in the winds. Lift your hands in the rain. Thank him while the boat's rocking. That's faith. That's power. That's spiritual maturity. Anybody can praise when the sun is shining. Anybody can shout when the bank account is full. But can you still sing when the thunder is clapping and you don't know how it's going to turn out? The storm is not the end. It's a chapter. It's a classroom. It's a stretching ground. Stop treating storms like life sentences. It's just a season. And if you trust God through it, you won't just survive. You'll come out stronger, wiser, deeper, bolder. See, the disciples went into that storm scared, but they came out of it with a deeper understanding of who Jesus was. Before the storm, he was the teacher. After the storm, he was the one who even the winds and waves obeyed. The storm changed their revelation. And storms will change yours too if you let them. But here's the thing, you gotta stay in the boat. Don't jump out just because the waves are high. Don't abandon the mission just because it's hard. God is in the boat. Stay with him. Don't let fear drive you to forfeit your destiny. Don't let what you feel make you forget what he said. If he said, let us go to the other side, then the other side is where you're going. He didn't say you wouldn't face storms. He said you wouldn't face them alone. Storms are not the enemy. Fear is. And if you let fear run your life, you'll never walk in purpose. Fear says jump out the boat. Faith says stay right there. He's with you. Fear says it's over. Faith says this is just the beginning. Fear says the waves are too high. Faith says speak to them. Fear says you're gonna drown. Faith says even if I do, he'll pull me back up. You gotta learn to drown your fear in faith. You gotta learn to speak peace even when everything is shaking. You gotta learn to remind your soul who your God is. I've been in storms where I thought it was done. Storms where I thought the ministry was finished. Where I thought the calling was too heavy. Where I thought the vision would never come to pass. But every single time, God showed up. Not always how I wanted, not always when I wanted, but he never failed, not once. And I'm telling you right now, he won't fail you either. This storm is not the sign that you're off track. Sometimes the storm is confirmation that you're exactly where you need to be. That the devil is nervous, that heaven is moving, that something is shifting in your life. And if you stay faithful in the storm, you'll step into favor after it. If you hold on in the middle, you'll walk in power on the other side. Don't curse the storm. Let it do its work. Let it shape you. Let it strengthen you. You ain't alone. God is in the boat. He hasn't left you. He's watching. He's working. And when the time is right, he'll speak. And when he speaks, the storm will stop. But in the meantime, hold on. Keep rowing. Keep trusting. Keep worshiping. Keep moving. You're going to make it to the other side. Too many people are sitting on the sidelines of purpose because they think they're not good enough. They think they messed up too much. They think their past disqualifies them. But I came to tell you, God doesn't need perfect people. He needs surrendered people. He's not asking you to be flawless. He's asking you to be available. He's not looking for performance. He's looking for obedience. So stop waiting until you've cleaned yourself up to come to God. That's religion. That's pride. Surrender means, God, here I am, with all my flaws, with all my struggles, with all my mess. Use me. We've got it twisted. We think God only uses the polished. But the Bible is full of broken people who said yes. Moses was a stutterer. David was an adulterer. Paul was a murderer. Peter had a temper. But guess what? They were surrendered. God doesn't call the qualified. He qualifies the call. He takes what the world says is unusable and puts purpose on it. You keep looking in the mirror, seeing your mistakes, your shortcomings, your history. But God looks at you and sees destiny. He sees mission. He sees an opportunity to show the world what grace looks like in human form. You keep thinking you got to get it all together before you say yes. That's not surrender. That's control. That's you trying to fix yourself with your own strength, and that will always fail. Surrender says, I don't have the power to fix me, but I trust you do. Faith is improving when everything's going your way. Faith ain't tested in the light. Faith is born, developed, and proven in the dark. Anybody can praise when the bank account is full. Anybody can say God is good when the doors are opening and the blessings are flowing. But what do you say when it all goes quiet? What do you believe when the storm rolls in? Because that's when real faith shows up. Not in your feelings, not in your comfort, in the chaos, in the silence, in the pressure. See, the storm doesn't destroy your faith. The storm reveals your faith. The storm reveals your faith. That trial you're in, that delay you're facing, that's not punishment. It's preparation. It's God saying, I'm building you. I'm stretching you. You say you have faith. Now I'm showing you what faith really looks like. You don't need faith when the plan is clear. You don't need faith when the path is smooth. Faith is when you're walking blind, following a voice in the dark, trusting that even though you can't see the waymaker is still working. You're praying for peace, but sometimes God won't calm the storm. He'll calm you in the storm. He'll calm you in the storm. He wants you to know that your faith isn't tied to circumstances. It's rooted in who he is. And who he is doesn't change. He's faithful. He's consistent. He's the same yesterday, today, and forever. But he wants to see, do you still believe when the feelings fade? Do you still believe when the doors close? Do you still trust when the answer is a not yet? Some of you are in a season where it feels like everything is being stripped away. The people you leaned on, gone, gone. The routine depended on, disrupted. The vision you thought you had, blurry. But God's saying, I'm not taking it to hurt you. I'm taking it so you lean into me. Because when everything else fades, that's when you find out where your trust really lies. Are you trusting in the job or in the provider? Are you trusting in the outcome or in the one who holds the outcome? You've got to stop treating faith like a feeling. Faith is not goosebumps. Faith is not hype. Faith is grit. Faith is commitment. Faith is waking up even when it still hurts and saying, oh God, I don't understand, but I trust you. Faith is not a motivational poster. Faith is bloody knuckles from fighting through doubt, pushing through disappointment, and still choosing to believe. Still choosing to get up. Still choosing to speak life over your situation when everything looks dead. And hear me, it's okay to feel fear, but don't let fear become your language. Faith doesn't mean you don't feel it. It means you don't live by it. You don't speak it. You don't bow to it. You say, I feel the fear, but I'm walking anyway. Because that's what God honors. Not perfection, but persevering. He honors those who keep going, even with tears in their eyes. He honors the ones who keep praying, even when the answer hasn't come yet. He honors the ones who sow in the drought, worship in the valley, and show up broken but still believing. You've got to stop expecting faith to make life easy. Faith doesn't make life easy. Faith doesn't make life easy. Faith makes it possible. And some of y'all are frustrated because you thought trusting God meant skipping the storm, but the promise was never that you wouldn't go through it. The promise was that he'd be with you in it. Although I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. Why? Because he is with me, not because the valley is gone, not because the danger disappeared, but because I know who's walking beside me. God didn't abandon you. He's teaching you. He's showing you that faith is not proven when the Red Sea parts. It's proven when you're standing in front of the sea with Pharaoh behind you and no escape in sight, and you still choose to stand still and see the salvation of the Lord. Faith is Noah building an ark when there is no rain. Faith is Abraham climbing the mountain, ready to sacrifice what he loves most, trusting that God will provide. Faith is Job saying, though he slay me, yet will I trust him. That's what God is looking for. Not shallow faith, not convenient faith, unshakable faith. That kind of faith that says, even if I lose everything, I still trust you. And even if the door doesn't open, I still believe you're good. Out to cry tonight, I'll still praise in the morning. That's the kind of faith that hell can't stop. That's the kind of faith that moves mountains. That's the kind of faith that gets heaven's attention. Listen to me. You got to stop rehearsing the worst case scenario. You keep speaking fear into your future. What if I fail? Or what if it never works? Flip the script. What if it does work? What if God is about to blow your mind? What if the delay was divine? What if the pain was preparation? What if the storm was the thing that strengthened your wings so you could fly? You've got to stop seeing the storm as punishment and start seeing it as a platform. Every time the enemy attacks you in the storm, it's because he's afraid of what's on the other side. The greater the attack, the greater the assignment. But you've got to have the faith to keep walking, even when the wind is loud, even when the waves are high, even when it looks like you're sinking, because you serve the God who walks on water. You serve the God who speaks to storm. You serve the God who says, peace, be still, not just to your situation, but to your soul. And don't forget, sometimes the storm is not outside you, it's inside you. The storm of doubt, the storm of doubt, the storm of shame, the storm of anxiety, but faith is what anchors you. Faith says, I'm not moved by what I feel. I'm moved by what he said. And he said, I will never leave you. He said, no weapon formed against you shall prosper. He said, I know the plans I have for you. That's your anchor. Not your emotions, not your timeline, not your emotions, not your timeline, not your 5-year plan, his word. Some of you have been questioning God's presence because you can't feel him. But faith is not about feeling. Faith is about knowing. You don't need a goosebump to know he's with you. You don't need a sign to know he's for you. You need the word. Stand on it. Build your life on it. When the winds blow, you won't fall. When the storms hit, you won't collapse. Because your foundation isn't in a vibe. It's in the word of the living God. You've got to get your faith out of neutral. You've been parked too long, waiting for the perfect condition. But faith doesn't, it moves. Faith is action. Faith is stepping when you're scared. Faith is building before the rain. Faith is obeying when it doesn't make sense. It's that kind of faith, it activates miracles. It activates favor. It activates power. Don't let the storm talk you out of what God promised. The enemy is hoping the storm will make you quit. He's hoping the delay will make you doubt. He's hoping the pain will make you walk away. But you've come too far to turn back now. You've survived too much to fold now. You've cried too many tears to throw in the towel now, my mom. God didn't bring you this far to leave you. God didn't bring you this far to abandon you. If you're still breathing, he's still working. I need you to fight. Fight for your faith. Fight with your worship. Fight with your word. Fight with your obedience. You don't need more proof. You need more persistence. You don't need another confirmation. You need conviction. You've got to walk like you believe, talk like you believe, move like you believe. Because faith isn't just what you say, it's how you live. You want mountain moving faith. Then you've got to stop speaking like a victim. Start speaking like a victor. Start declaring that God is for me. Start declaring this storm will pass. Start declaring I will see the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living. Don't let your mouth cancel what your faith is praying for. Your faith is praying for. Aim your voice with your vision. Align your speech with your seed. Speak faith, even in the storm. So if you're in the middle of it right now, good. That means God's doing something. That means something is growing in you. That means your faith is being refined. It's being refined. That means the breakthrough is coming. But don't quit in the storm. Don't give up in the night. Joy is coming in the morning. The sun is going to shine again. And when you come out of this, you won't be the same. You'll be stronger. You'll be wiser. You'll be unshakable. Because faith is not about avoiding the storm. It's about standing in the middle of it, raising your hands and saying, even now I trust you. If God gave you the dream, then he already gave you the strength to carry it. You may not feel it. You may not see it, but it's in you. Stop questioning the power when the pressure comes. Stop doubting the calling when the climb gets steep. The dream wasn't a mistake. The vision wasn't an accident. The fire in your gut, that relentless urge to become more, that wasn't something you manufactured. That was God planting purpose inside your chest. And when he plans something, he also equips it. See, God doesn't give out empty visions. He's not playing games with your life. When he gave you the dream, he wired you with everything you would need to chase it. But here's the problem. Most people want to feel strong before they move. Most people wait for evidence before they act. But faith is moving when you feel weak. Faith is walking while you're still wounded, while you're still wounded. Faith is showing up when you rather lay down. Faith says, God, I can't see how it's going to happen, but I know who gave me the dream. And I trust that if you gave it to me, you'll give me the tools to finish it. You don't need to feel strong to be strong. Strength is not always fire, and thunder always fire and thunder. Sometimes strength is crawling. Sometimes it's crying while moving forward. Sometimes strength is showing up to the battlefield exhausted but still swinging. You keep waiting for perfect timing, perfect conditions, perfect energy, and you're wasting what God already gave you. The strength is not coming. It's already in you. It just needs to be activated. That pain you're carrying, that's resistance training. That struggle, that's your gym. God is developing strength in your spirit through the weight you're under, and you want him to take the weight away. But he's saying, oh no, I'm not taking the weight. I'm training your legs to carry it. I'm building your lungs to breathe under pressure. I'm building your back so you can carry greatness. He's not crushing you. He's conditioning you. Listen to me. If the dream is heavy, it's because your destiny is massive. If the path is difficult, it's because your calling is significant. You don't get to impact the world with average effort. You don't get to change generations with part-time grind. If you got a God-sized dream, you're going to need God-sized strength. And that strength doesn't come without trials. It doesn't come without pressure. Diamonds don't form in comfort. Oil doesn't flow without crushing. You're begging God to take away the challenge. And he's saying, oh no, I'm teaching you to rise through it. You think you're failing because it's hard, but it's hard because you're growing. You think something's wrong with you because it hurts, but the pain is not a punishment. It's a sign that you're becoming who you were born to be. Some of you are looking at your life and saying, I don't think I'm strong enough. But you're measuring your strength based on how you feel, not based on what you've overcome. You forgot the nights you cried and still got up. You forgot the days you were broken but kept grinding. You forgot the storms you've already survived. You forgot that hell tried to take you out and you're still standing. That's strength. That's divine strength. That's not willpower. That's not hustle. That's not motivation. That's the power of God carrying you when your flesh gave out. That's the kind of strength the world can't explain. That's the kind of strength that doesn't show up in your muscles. It shows up in your spirit. The enemy wants you to focus on your weakness, because if he can get you to doubt your strength, he can keep you from chasing your dream. He wants you looking at the obstacles, the fear, the delay, because if you ever realize the strength already in you, you become unstoppable. The moment you stop questioning your capacity and start trusting God's supply, everything changes. You go from surviving to thriving, from crawling to flying and You keep saying, I can't do this, but the truth is you already are. Every single day you choose to show up, you're winning. Every time you choose faith over fear, you're growing. Every moment you keep moving forward, when everything in you says quit, you're walking in strength. And let me tell you something powerful. Strength doesn't look like never falling. Strength looks like falling 100 times and still getting up for the 101st. You think strong people never cry? You think warriors don't get tired? You think the greats didn't question themselves? No, what separates the great from the average is not that they had more talent or more favor. It's that they had the strength to endure, the strength to keep going when it stopped making sense, the strength to believe when no one else did, the strength to keep pushing when everything in them said, oh, this is too much. But it wasn't too much. It was just enough. Because the truth is, you're not weak. You're waiting to feel ready, waiting for someone to validate you, waiting for the pain to stop. But strength doesn't wait. It moves, even when it's scared, even when it's uncertain, even when it's hurting. You want God to show you the blueprint, but he's saying, I already gave you the power. Now go build. You're waiting on the details, but God is waiting on your decision. He's saying, I gave you the dream. Now get up. Push, grind, trust, fight, create, believe, move. Because the more you move, the more strength you'll find. The more you act, the more clarity you'll get. The more you step, the more doors will open. You're thinking too small, you're praying too safe. You're walking too soft. God didn't give you a light dream. He gave you a dream that shakes the earth, a dream that changes generations, a dream that makes hell nervous. And you think he'd leave you empty-handed? No, he loaded you up. You're carrying heaven's DNA. You're built for this. You're built for the pressure. You're built for the climb. You're built for the dream. But dreams cost. Dreams demand, dreams stretch. And the price isn't just discipline, it's faith, it's endurance, it's resilience, it's choosing to show up when you feel overlooked. Choosing to grind when no one is clapping, choosing to build when no one believes. And you can't do that in your own strength. You need God. You need grace. You need a supernatural fire fueling your ordinary actions. Because it means it doesn't matter where you come from. Doesn't matter if you were counted out. Doesn't matter if you don't have the degree or the network or the resume. If God gave you the dream, then everything you don't have doesn't matter. He is your resource. He is your strength. He is your open door. Stop looking outside for what he already placed inside. You don't need permission. You've been approved. You don't need applause. You've been anointed. You don't need a sign. You are the sign. The fact that you're still alive is proof that he's not done. The fact that the dream won't die is proof that it's divine. So stop walking like a victim. Stop talking like you're powerless. You're a warrior. You're a kingdom builder. You're a storm walker. You got fire in your bones and purpose in your blood. The strength is in you. It just needs a reason to rise. And that reason is your dream. So when it gets hard, don't shrink. When it gets lonely, don't quit. When it gets dark, don't panic. That's just the environment where strength is born. That's just God saying, I'm not weakening you, I'm weaponizing you. I'm weaponizing you to stop praying for easier battles. Stop praying for stronger shoulders. Stop praying for fire in your soul. Start praying for vision so clear that not even hell can shake it. Because this ain't a game. This is purpose. This is legacy. This calling. And it will cost you everything, but it will give you more than you ever imagined. So when the road gets rough, when the weight feels heavy, when your strength feels gone, remember this. If God gave you the dream, he already gave you the strength to carry it. You don't need to get ready. You already are. There comes a point in life where you got to stop asking a why me and start declaring a watch me. Life is going to test you. That's guaranteed. You're going to lose people. You're going to lose people. You're going to face rejection. You're going to have moments where everything looks like it's falling apart. But hear me clearly. How you respond determines what comes next. The pain ain't the problem. The delay ain't the problem. The storm ain't the problem. The problem is your perspective. Because you keep thinking God's punishing you when in fact he's preparing you. You prayed for strength and then got mad when he gave you resistance. You asked for a platform, then panicked when he put you in the shadows. You said you wanted to be great, but didn't expect to have to fight for it. That's not how this works. You don't get the crown without carrying the cross. You don't get the victory without stepping into the battle. You don't get the breakthrough without pressure. And pressure always precedes purpose. You keep waiting on God to give you a miracle. The miracle is already inside you. You're waiting for a rescue when he's building your resilience. God's not sending a helicopter. He's strengthening your wings. He's not removing the mountain. He's giving you the strength to climb it. Because what you become in the climb is more important than how fast you reach the top. If he gave it to you easy, you never learned to steward it. You never learn to respect it. You never understand the value of what he's building in you. The reason it's hard right now is because God is crafting a version of you that you haven't met yet. He's stripping away the fear, the laziness, the excuses, the victimhood. And he's calling out the warrior. That version of you, the one who doesn't quit, the one who doesn't make excuses, the one who rises even when life knocks you to your knees. That's the one who's going to walk into destiny. That's the one who's going to carry the legacy. That's the one who's going to change the game. But let's be real, transformation ain't cute. It's not Instagram. It's not motivational quotes and nice lighting. It's sleepless nights. It's crying in silence. It's being misunderstood. It's being overlooked. It's rejection after rejection and still choosing to show up. That's where character is forged. That's where real strength is born. Not in the spotlight, but in the struggle. See, people want the platform, but they don't want the process. They want the anointing, but not the crushing. But without the crushing, the oil doesn't flow. Without the fire, the gold doesn't shine. God is refining you, not rejecting you. And you've got to stop interpreting delay as denial. Sometimes God says, wait, because he's preparing the space for you to step into. If you rush into it now, you'll sabotage what was supposed to be sacred. If you grab it too early, you'll drop it too soon. You're being seasoned for something bigger than you can even comprehend. And let me tell you this, If it didn't matter, the enemy wouldn't be attacking you. If your dream was small, the resistance wouldn't be this great. If your purpose was average, the warfare wouldn't be this intense. The fact that you feel hell pressing in on all sides is proof that heaven's assignment on your life is real. So stop letting adversity talk you out of what God already promised you. Stop letting temporary storms redefine your permanent calling. You got to start speaking different. Start thinking different. Start moving different. You're not like everyone else. You weren't born to fit in. You weren't made to be at. You weren't created to play it safe. You were born to shake the earth. You were designed to break chains. You were anointed to lead people out of bondage. And that kind of calling, it comes with a cost. You might lose friends. You might walk alone. You might get laughed at. You might be told you're crazy. But you got to keep your eyes locked on the vision. You've got to trust that what God whispered to you in private is more powerful than the noise around you in public. Because most people won't understand your process. That's okay. It's not their dream. It's yours. It wasn't given to the crowd. It was given to you. And when God gives you a dream, it won't make sense to everybody. It might not even make sense to you. But that's why it's faith. Faith means building the ark before the rain. It means moving before the door opens. It means trusting the blueprint, even when the outcome looks blurry. And sometimes that means walking alone. Sometimes that means being the only one clapping for yourself. But you better clap anyway. You better grind anyway. You better believe anyway. Because faith without works is dead, and dreaming without discipline is delusion. You can't just wish your way into destiny. You've got to work your way into it. You've got to grind when it's not glamorous. You've got to pray when it's not popular. You've got to show up when you feel empty. Because purpose requires consistency, not just inspiration. You don't become great off hype. You become great through habits. You become great through the days when no one's watching and you still give it everything you've got. And I need you to hear me. You're not behind. You're not forgotten. You're not invisible. You are right on schedule. God's timing is different than yours. He's not just building your dream. He's building you to carry it. Because some of you are so focused on the destination, you're missing the development. You think he's holding you back, but he's actually holding you up. He's protecting you from stepping into something you're not mature enough to manage yet. That heartbreak, that was protection. That delay, that was strategy. That closed door, that was divine redirection. Because God's not just giving you success, he's giving you sustainability. Anybody can reach the top fast, but only the discipline, the prepared, the anointed stay there. So stop complaining, stop comparing, stop giving energy distractions. Lock in, focus, go all in on the assignment. Because you weren't called to survive, you were called to lead. You weren't designed to settle, you were designed to build. There are people waiting on your obedience. There are lives attached to your yes. There are generations counting on your breakthrough. This is bigger than you.